There are a lot of things that needs to be done. One of the key really things that we were talking about on the panel there was the issue of the policy alignment, which we are hopeful that the Continental Free Trade Agreement will unleash, where policies start to look more amenable to increased trade between amongst countries, basically, so to say. But I also mentioned the issue of addressing the infrastructural deficit that we are faced on the continent in order to have easy movement of goods and people, because people move services as well. And then financing, without financing, really, you do not have the important ingredient. What Dr. Adesini of the African Development Bank calls the real lubricant of international trade. So really, I believe that we have a big opportunity here. We have a lot of political will amongst African leaders, and all we need to do is to bring it all together and underpin it with more sustainable programs, realistic programs like the SATIPP that we have just launched today.
And what are the major policy barriers in promoting free trade in the African continent?
Well, obviously, traditionally, we have tend as Africans to be inward-looking and, having policies that tend to promote the nationalistic rather than the regionalistic, approaches. So some of the policy impediments will relate to customs arrangements, will relate to, charges and fees and all those kind of things. Some of them so prohibitive that you would probably feel better trading with Italy than trading with, say, Zambia, say, DRC, and all those kind of things. But like I say, we have seen a slow removal of some of these barriers, and we are hoping that, with the kind of enthusiasm at the political leadership level that we see amongst or across the whole of the continent, we are probably going to get to a position where it will be much easier to trade with ourselves. But at the same time, as I said, you will need financing, hence why this particular program that aims to provide access to affordable financing, trade financing, which then will enable movement of easy, competitive approaches to trade.
And where do the opportunities lie for South African exports?
As we have said in the program, in actual fact, in everything else that South Africa can be having competitive advantage on in terms of exporting. But, trade is a reciprocal process. Sometimes you hear that the goods that are produced in some other African countries, they end up not even reaching our shelves in South Africa. Instead, we'll probably go to Brazil to get those goods, maybe not at a price that would be much affordable or even competitive than if you were to get them from the DRC, for instance. So what is the issue around not being able to trade with each other? And we have mentioned this on the panel, is a question of information availability and dissemination of that information in terms of trade arrangements, trade policies, trade laws of various countries, as well that you are interested in as an exporter, as well as availability of finance and what kind of documentation you need to provide in order to access that type of financing.
Now, South Africa as a country is an economic giant on the African continent. What role do you believe it should play in the development of intra-Africa trade?
Yeah, we believe that South Africa should lead, and we have always said that South Africa should leverage its capabilities and lead the process, but with humility. I always say, put it that, with humility. And why I'm saying that is that you don't want to come as you have said, as a giant, and you come with a big brother attitude. You should be more of a partner, and a preferred partner for that matter, to be the one, you must actually earn that leadership role by leading the process, by actually showing your keenness to invest in those other countries, and also to import what is affordable that we can import, as opposed to looking all over the world. I'm not saying we should not look at the global trade as such and leverage our own strengths in global trade, but I'm saying that, I mean, it may be actually cheaper. In the actual fact, there is a proof that it is much cheaper to promote intra-regional trade in other products and services, even manufactured products and services. And I was in at some stage also, this morning in another discussion that I had, that if you're a South African investor and you probably find that, I mean, it is much more expensive to produce from South Africa, what should prevent you from going to Malawi or going to Zambia to actually set up firm there, where it may actually be much more cost competitive for you to produce from? You can even import into South Africa, back into South Africa. You can re-import the value-added products into South Africa and to the rest of the world. But, investment must actually be able to follow competitive advantage or comparative advantage of countries. It must be that, I mean, it is much cost effective for me to produce from Mozambique than to produce from South Africa. So that's why, one of the aims of this program is to promote outward investment by South Africans into the rest of the continent.
And then just going forward, how do we ensure that this is not just another talk shop and we get tangible results and goals?
Yeah. Again, probably from the panel discussion, you have heard actually me say that there are so many plans, there are so many initiatives and everything else that it goes along with it. But how do you track the scoreline? And I think that, I mean, for every program to be judged is that you must give yourself target milestones, and those must be measurable. And every year, from where I see it, my board expects me, and I mean, my principals in government, the minister, they will be expecting me to come to them and say, every year, this is what SATIPP has achieved. That's what our partnership with Afreximbank has achieved. So we have very tight schedule and very tight timelines that we have to be able to deliver on the intents and on the programs that we have set ourselves in this program, in this larger program.